Welcome to the From Concealment Podcast, the show for firearm enthusiasts who like to shoot, train, carry, and compete. Get ready for some shooting insight, firearm and accessory reviews, and of course, insight on conceal carry. And now, broadcasting from behind enemy lines in the From Concealment studio, it's Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams.
Hey, Freedom Nation, this is Pete Mitchell.
And I'm Dan Sams.
And, it's been an interesting couple of days, man. I thought it was kind of ironic when you said to me it's mass shooting season because the election's coming up. And, we're definitely seeing the Democrats panic like crazy with, hey, let's go protest in front of all the Supreme Court justices' homes. Which, by the way, it's just really weird seeing a woman fight for a right to kill her kid. Like,
I know,
like they're vehemently just give me the right to kill my kid. It's so weird seeing that. Like,
it is weird.
I don't even know what to say.
Well, and we're past. It used to be that the what was then called the pro-choice movement tried to argue that, like, well, it's not a human life. It's part of the mother's body. And of course, the science has completely debunked that thinking. It's clearly a human life, distinct DNA, and thus a separate human life. And so now they're trying to argue. Now the argument is just like, yeah, but my life's more important. Like, that's kind of just. I mean, they're bold about it. Like the nastiness of the leftists saying, like, yeah, I don't care. I should be able to kill babies. It's wicked. God's going to bring judgment for it. I'm just pretty confident of that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that Jesus said, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but basically, the kingdom of heaven belongs to kids. And I'm like, yeah, well, considering how many kids have been killed, I'm not surprised. Like, pretty much every Christian believes that under a certain age, we don't know exactly the number, but when a child dies, they're going to heaven because they're accountable to that which they know. And kids don't know a whole lot. And that would pretty much mean that, aborted babies would be going to heaven. They didn't have a chance yet really to reject God. So.
Yeah, I lean towards the interpretation that babies go to heaven. I can't make a strong argument for it from Scripture, but I think I can make a decent one. And so that's what I lean towards. But
I think you can make a decent one because when you've got a fair God, which we do, I can't see God all of a sudden going, oh, look, that little bit. No, sorry, baby, you got to go to hell. I mean, Paul tells us there's the the age of accountability, or however he words it. I mean, so I think the argument's pretty strong there.
I think we can make a decent one. We see even in the Old Testament, the culpability was not held to someone until they'd reached age 20. I shouldn't say no culpability, but like 20 is when someone, so when God was judging the nation for rebellion against him, it was until anybody born older than 20 had aged out. Does that make sense? So like everybody under 20 was not judged for the covenant violation that the Hebrew people did as a group. And also like age 20 was when you could go to war, all that kind of stuff. So the general thinking, which I think sounds kind of late, but God has several.
Really late. I've known way too many 17-year-olds who were total dicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's if we're gonna find a hard line, that's the closest one to one we have in Scripture, where God actually, we see him not putting judgment on 20 and younger during that rebellion against him. So I don't know. It's a whole topic. So
yeah. But anyway, back to the gun mass shooting stuff. I mean, I shared with you a bunch of Voxer messages from my buddy who lives 2 blocks away from the church, the Taiwanese church that had the shooting. And if what I remember, I mean, I pulled it up here so I would have it. I'm actually not sure where it is on my computer anymore. I got too many tabs open. It's kind of like my brain right now. But bottom line was one person died, 5 were injured, 4 are critically injured. This was a older church. I believe everyone was between the ages of like 62 and 90 something who were injured. Yes. The assailant was also Asian. I don't know if he was Taiwanese or not. He was 68 himself, so he was not a spring chicken. So there's got to be something to this story, right? Like, you got an old guy going after old people at a church and shooting them with 2 handguns, I guess is what he had. And the rest of the members just went to town, right? I mean, maybe that's how some of them got injured. They're like, no, we got to stop you because you're trying to kill everyone. And they got him to the ground, got his weapons away, hogtied him, and waited for the police to show up. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Like that, it's an old person church, right? It's not like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you just kind of think, how many enemies do you have at 75, right? Like, were you really sleeping with the other guy's wife, at 75? I mean, I'm not justifying that, adultery is the reason why people go out there. But I mean, like, you can understand it when there's like all these things that happen when you're younger. And that's why someone decides to go off. And we don't know why this guy went off. We don't know anything about it at this point. It's still too fresh. This was yesterday. In fact, I found out about it by Twitter. Rick Warren said something about it. And I was like, what was this? And so I Googled it and found out about it. I think the media is upset that the guy was not a young white guy and they couldn't blame it on white supremacy. I find it interesting that the Buffalo supermarket shooting, I mean, it was like they were all ready for this. Like, oh, yeah, we got all this stuff. And they just, went to town on blaming it on white guys. And all I could think, by the way, with that one is, this is the reason why even when I go to the grocery store 1.5 miles away from my house in a great community, I take a freaking gun with me. Because the problem is, this happened in New York, where you basically don't have the right to carry a gun. And so all these people are just open season for someone. It's open season on them.
Yep. Bad guys always pick soft targets.
Yeah, they're not going to go after people who have guns. They're just not.
Yep.
Churches are easy targets. And we've seen a lot of churches. I mean, how many in Texas now have we seen shooters at? I mean, it's considered a soft target. Schools, same thing, soft target. Easy prey. Yep.
That is unfortunately the case. It is always interesting to me the way that the media tries to race bait, though. Even in this situation, some of the headlines were, man shoots up Asian church. They leave out the fact that he's Asian. Yeah. Right. Or
that's why I didn't know it until I was reading about it. And my buddy told me, oh, well, yeah, I don't think it was hate because dude's Asian himself. I mean, maybe it's like, I'm Cambodian, you're Taiwanese, we don't like each other. I don't know. I don't know
That's what I'm wondering too. But even that doesn't fit the race narrative of the left right now.
Right, which is white guys are guilty of everything.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The Buffalo too. I mean, obviously that's wicked and terrible for all kinds of reasons. But there's news that this guy was a leftist, that there is some evidence that this dude was a socialist in his thinking, that he'd written. Of course, he's so young. He's like 18. But nobody's commenting on that. They're trying to leverage the race angle on it. And I'm like,
what's really disgusting was seeing all the Twitter responses to what happened and everyone blaming this on Kyle Rittenhouse. And they're like, oh, well, see, because of that started it. And we let that guy off. So now everyone's thinking they can just go kill people. And it's like, dude, you guys are literally out of your minds. You're literally out of your minds. Kyle Rittenhouse did everything right. Like, I still can't believe how he did everything right. Friendly. He did not want to shoot anybody.
Yeah.
And you're really going to blame this psychopath on Kyle Rittenhouse? And I mean, I'm not talking about like one guy on Twitter saying this. There were just thread after thread after thread of everyone blaming this on Kyle Rittenhouse. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Man, poor Kyle Rittenhouse.
Who knew, right? He thought he was done.
I know. No, my understanding is he's wanting to organize to sue some of the people who defamed him, and I'm all for it. I hope he sues the heck out of them.
Yeah, I don't know that he'll get it, but yeah.
No, I would love to see something done though to mitigate slander from our media, because they're controlling people's thought, right? They're controlling the narrative. They're spreading false information, and then once the thing is over, they don't normally do a correction. I would love for there to be some type of an accountability for that. If you're in the business of news and you intentionally share something false, or pretend like you know something that you don't know about, you need to have a correction in it, and the correction needs to match the way in which you misinformed. It's one thing to be like, man, we got this wrong. It's another thing to just pretend like it didn't happen when it's like, but you guys screwed this up, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, I've always thought that about their retractions, right? They'll print their retractions hidden in the paper somewhere, you know, and like, oh, by the way, we said this, we should have said this. And it's like, well, dude, why isn't it just as big as, you know, if it was front page news, put it on the front page. Hey, on Wednesday's newspaper, we said this, we were wrong. This is what we should have said.
Yeah, would have been, and that would actually win more trust.
Completely.
It's interesting that it's always the cover up that causes the biggest problem. And I'm like, you know, if you would just be honest. But the thing is, we're not dealing with actual news outlets that care about the truth. Because if they did, then they would care about correcting it. They don't.
No,
we're just not. It's just not what we're dealing with.
For the reporter, it's, I have a job. I need to keep my job. So it's about money. For the publisher itself, it's, we have advertisers. We need to keep our advertisers. Now, on the internet, it's about clicks. So the more people who click on your article, those ads show, and every time there's an impression, well, that counts and you get paid. So that's why ClickBank is so prevalent on the internet. Yeah. I mean, it has nothing to do with the story itself. It's, we're in the money business. We need to get clicks. In fact, there's a great book. Can't remember the guy's name who wrote it. It's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And the guy was like the director of marketing for, oh man, I don't know, American Apparel, or that may not, I don't think that's the right one, but, and he goes into, hey, this is how we manipulated the media to get them to write the articles we wanted them to write so we could get the publicity we wanted to get so we could make more sales. And he literally lays down like how you could do it yourself, and how you get like the low level newspapers or, you know, online blogs to write about it. Because then what happens is the next level, they're looking at what those guys wrote, and then they go copy that, and, oh, well, you know, this must be a story. And then they go to the next one, and the next level looks back at those, and that's how it climbs up the ladders. You're not trying to fool the Washington Post. You're trying to fool the guy at the bottom, because it just goes right up the ladder. It's crazy. Trust Me, I'm Lying. What a great name for a book, by the way.
It is a great name for a book.
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
It's a good one. It's a good one for marketers.
Oh, man. Yeah, I need to check it out. But it gives you an idea of just what's happening right now. And so what's interesting to me is people jump to, well, that's why I only read, you know, hardly anybody does this, but people will claim, well, I read peer-reviewed journals, and that's how I know everything's okay. And I'm like, nope, they lie too.
Yeah.
I mean, like the stuff that's going on in the quote unquote science industry is so shady, and they're open about it. I talked to a dude who was working for a major university. He was getting his PhD. And so he's working in the lab, and so all research, and of course, but it's funded by, you know, pharmaceutical agencies and whatever. And so this particular, you know, and they're just collecting data on top of data. It's actually kind of cool that they have so much data collection. But they aggregate data and they essentially run a test on data they already have, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's look at all of this from this angle and see what's there. And so they had something that came out and it made the funder look bad. And so they had him look at the numbers again. And he tells me he ran it in a fair way and that it made them look better. But the thought that came to my mind, I'm like, well, but if it had made him look good in the first place, nobody would have even checked it. Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah. And then we also know just the way that numbers are twisted, numbers are tweaked. Anytime if you get the chance to read Thomas Sowell, he does such a good job of breaking down. He'll say like, all right, here's how the numbers look this way, but here's what was actually specifically happening in each of these categories. And then how they aggregated the numbers in this way to leave this thing out and do that. Man, it's beautiful. He's brilliant, by the way.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. Yeah, no, I find all of that completely fascinating. In fact, one of my really good friends, he's an ex-champion professional bodybuilder. And so he was the guy who coached me all in my weight loss and, all that type of stuff. And so he's one of these guys who like loves to go on to the journal websites and read all the studies. So in fact, he and I, we put together a book years and years ago on like fat loss supplements. And he went through and like looked at the studies and said, hey, you know what? Based on these studies right here, I'm going to give this, a 1 out of 5 stars, or this a 3 out of 5 stars. I mean, he like loves to do that stuff. And so we were looking at something one time and he goes, well, here's the thing. There's only one study on this, which by the way, that's not enough. Like, yeah. I know in the age of COVID, everyone believes one study is enough of like 20 people. That's plenty, right? Which is total bunk. The reality is you have a lot of studies, and then you look at over all of these studies, which way is the evidence leaning towards? And anyway, so he was looking at this one study and he goes, here's the only problem with this one study. I mean, yeah, they got a lot of people in it. So that was good. It was a good trial. But it was funded by the company that the product was being tested. And he goes, and so you never really know, because when it's funded by the company, that the product that's being tested is being funded by the company that makes it, it's suspect. Yeah, it's suspect.
It is. It's crazy. Oh, what a world we're in, dude.
I know.
Can't even trust the science, can we?
No, well, here's an interesting science article. So I'm glad you brought up science. This is on Science. Wait, no, C-Site. I don't know. I can't even read the name of the site, but it's a science. Oh, it's Science Tech Daily. That's the site. Here's the headline: Fecal transplants reverse hallmarks of aging in the gut, eyes, and brain. So, hey, there's good news in the science world. We just need to have more fecal transplants, apparently.
So here's what's interesting to me. We are in a season of shootings. Like I know you mentioned me saying this in the chat before, but it seems like we'll go dark. We won't hear about anything. And even what's considered a mass shooting, it depends on how many people were hit or how much interest seemed to be in it from a media perspective. And so all of a sudden we've got 2 in a couple of days. And I don't know. It's on my mind that I'm concerned we're going to see a few more of these leading up to the election because we've got facing what is likely to be a huge red wave. Have you seen the map of like all the states where Biden's approval rating is just in the toilet?
I haven't seen it. I mean, I can only imagine because, I mean, even Saturday Night Live like ripped on him. It was like, wow, when the liberal Saturday Night Live rips on Biden, it says a lot. But, what my big fear is, and it's not a fear, it's a justified reality. They're going to use every shooting they can to erode more of our rights. And when the Supreme Court releases their decision this summer, and let's say it goes our way, which we all believe it will go our way, and basically says that, no, you have to allow people to carry arms. You have to allow them. I think that's why we're seeing the media play up all these mass shootings, because what are they going to say? They're going to say that many more guns. They're going to find the 2 or 3 sheriffs out there that are like, no, we don't need more guns on the streets. That makes our lives, harder. Our jobs harder. They're gonna play that stuff like crazy, and then you add that to what we anticipate to be the abortion decision coming down the pipe, and it's like I've said before, it's ripe for civil war. It's ripe for court packing. It's ripe for, hey, let's just abolish the Supreme Court. It's not serving us anymore. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at this going, I think that's where all of this stuff is heading.
Well, it is. We need to pay attention that this does align with the Marxist playbook. So we have a whole lot of things happening. We have the rampant inflation. We've got things like the Afghanistan debacle and things like it, where things went so bad that it couldn't have been an accident, right? And then they doubled down on the bad thing. Like the Afghanistan debacle was not an accident. That was totally on purpose.
But fairness to Biden, it was ordered by Trump. Like the date, everything was set when Trump was in office.
Fairness to Biden, but there was no legitimate effort made to get people and things out at the right time. And then the big thing that I kept saying is, why did we block people from landing in airports in other countries that we have agreements with?
Yeah.
Like that's on purpose. So this is what I'm getting at, though. We have things like that. We have the food shortage. I don't know if you're watching. They're like 12 different food processing plants have had fires, like debilitating fires in the last, 7 months or so. The whole thing with the baby formula. I don't know if you know, there is a major baby formula factory that was shut down because of a concern on some kind of a bacterial whatever being passed. The FDA did an investigation back in like January or maybe it was February, and realized it's highly unlikely that the bacterial infections were coming from anything that was going on at this plant. And yet the Biden administration has kept that plant closed. So that is continuing to facilitate that ongoing shortage of baby formula. We just have all these things that keep lining up. We have the whole fuel issue. And I'm like, this all feels important. And this is, or intentional, that is. And this is what the Marxist playbook is. Make things go bad so you depend on the government. Yeah, it's
you think that's what's coming?
I think there's something like it. Or at least disruption. I mean, that's how it always is. Like, we create problems so that there is a distress, and then, wouldn't you know it, the Marxists end up being the ones in control.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only reason why I would be a little bit apprehensive to buy into that theory is I just don't see government being that organized to pull it off. I mean, think about all the different moving parts you'd have to have organized in order to pull something like that off.
But it's not normally the government itself that's pulling it all off. It's globalist.
It's the Illuminati.
Well, it's not quite that level, but it's that kind of stuff, honestly, like where somebody's working behind the scenes to get something to play out a certain way. I mean, there's a lot of shadiness, World Health Organization stuff, World Economic Forum.
Well, when we look at what's happening in the economy, first of all, rampant inflation. And it's worse than what they're reporting, because what they're reporting is so skewed in how they derive their numbers. It's not even real. Like, what affects the average person in America is significantly higher. I'd say it's probably 20% right now if you look at what's affecting the average citizen. Gas prices, milk prices, food prices, meat prices, all that stuff, right? It is significantly higher. And they were saying, I mean, the papers were writing, just because the government prints money doesn't mean inflation is going to happen. That's what they were saying back when the government was printing money left and right. That's like, are you out of your freaking minds? Do you not understand how basic money works? And last quarter, we were already in a down GDP, and technically a recession is two down GDPs in a row. So I think we're going to see that again for this quarter, which means we're already in a recession. So we're already in a recession, and they are jacking up interest rates like crazy to get inflation under control. So whether it's going to be a bad recession or, what we call the soft landing recession, because right now the recession doesn't hurt. The inflation hurts much more. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see, how do the rates affect that? But, like we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, we're trying to sell our house. And because we're not in that first-time home buyer market, our whole market is just stopped. Like it came to a screeching halt. And we're going to start seeing that more and more across the country. In fact, I've been doing these Instagram reels that Fannie Mae did their April 2022 National Housing Survey, and only 19% of respondents say now is a good time to buy a home. And so what that means is it's been like the hottest sellers market we've ever known. And like that, it's changed. And that's because of the rates, right? We were 3% in January. We're at 5% now. Yep. So the rates, I mean, that's almost double, right? And I think we're probably going to go up to about 7.5 is where I think we'll probably top out on the rates. And then they'll have to do all these cuts again to get us out of the recession that they're putting us in, right? So by the way, guys, buy the home now and then refi when rates go back down, because that's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I look at all of that stuff and I'm like, man, dude, this is getting dicey out there. And then we've got all this civil unrest. We've got all the, pro-abortion. I want to be able to kill my kid people. Oh, how dare you have a gun? How dare you be able to protect yourself? I mean, we are headed into some scary times. Food, like you mentioned, not being able to get it. To me, the interesting thing with the whole baby formula thing is, well, can't moms just breastfeed? I mean, isn't that like,
yeah.
First of all, isn't that like way better?
It is. Well, I would say it is.
Pfizer says it's not, but that's Pfizer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me how baby formula has become such a thing when it's like, well, we know breast milk is healthy. I know there are like some occasions like when there's mother has some supply issues or whatever. So it's weird to me though, that like it's pushed so much. Like doctors want to know, well, this is what they say. They want to know that your baby ate this much and they want to be able to track it and whatever. And that's what they normally say is why they push it. But I'm like, why would you do that? Why not do what's healthier and cheaper?
Interesting.
Yeah. How interesting though, to have a situation where like there's another way that a dependency is created that is being taken away.
Yeah. I was reading earlier today that Biden's like not letting baby formula come in from other countries. I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't read the whole article. And it could be like baby formula. It's a pretty regulated thing because you're dealing with babies. Like, we don't care if you kill your kid before it's born, but then the second it's born, life's sacred, make them wear a mask till they're 5 years old and eat this baby formula. It's like really weird. Our freaking society is just off its rocker.
Well, some of that's changing with some of the, some of the new abortion bills are essentially allow for infanticide. And so, we're losing even that. We're losing that, which it's funny. Those of us in the pro-life movement have for years said like, okay, well, if this is based totally on location, what's to stop infanticide? What's to stop eugenics? And they were like, you crazy conspiracy theorists. And yet here we are, like bills are being passed to essentially allow for that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I tell you what, man, I'm so tired of being right.
Have you seen that meme where it's Johnny Depp and he's in Pirates of the Caribbean and, he's talking to the guy and the guy's like, I can't believe that women born today are going to have less rights than their parents had or than their mothers had. And Johnny Depp goes, but they will be born.
I saw that. So good.
Like, dude, that's funny. That's hilarious.
Oh man. I'm actually, it's interesting to me that we have play-by-play of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard hearings or whatever trial. And like, we couldn't get Ghislaine Maxwell's trial.
Nothing for her. Radio silence for her.
Yeah. I will say that there is something entertaining about a couple of his one-liners in that have been pretty good. Cause it's pretty clear now.
You started drinking at 10 o'clock in the morning?
And he's like,
happy hours every hour, right?
Happy hour. Or did you hear the lawyer that was like, so you poured yourself a mega pint of wine? And he's like, a mega pint? Like, what? Oh, yeah. I used to
drink wine out of a pint glass too. I'd fill it up and drink the pint glass. So I was like, I can relate.
What makes it a mega pint? What do you use that?
That's just the lawyer trying to make it, a pint is a pint, right?
I know.
That's all it is. That's why Johnny Depp was like laughing on the stand, a mega pint.
Yeah. Oh man. He's the one thing I will say about all this is their attention is being drawn to the reality that like people are slandering people to get their day in this, day of fame or to whatever. And it's becoming pretty clear that like he's been slandered. And not that he was perfect dude. I'm not a fan of Johnny Depp, but I think they're drawing some attention to the fact that like, man, dudes are getting slandered here, and this is not okay.
Yeah.
All very interesting. Anyway, that's a side note. But here's what's wild to me. We were talking about the pro-death people, protesting outside of the Supreme Court justices' houses and all that kind of stuff. Think about the fact that the people that want to be able to murder children are the people that don't want us to have guns. That should tell us something. Like, I think if we're looking at this, if I was reading about our time in a history book 100 years from now, and just the things we're seeing, can you imagine, like, you read certain things and you're like, what? Caesar did what? And they let him, right? I think this is the kind of thing where they would be like, wait a minute. The party that's supposed to be of peace is the party that wants to kill children? Like, what? And they don't want you to have guns, but they're what? I think looking back on this, there's going to be people saying like this, what insanity. And why didn't they see through it sooner?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to be like, well, some of us did, but they didn't let us talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, anyway, shooting season, man, we need to pray.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Why don't you give Lake Erie their plugs? I got to get on to my next appointment.
You're good. So I will say Lake Erie Arms, this morning, I was at the groundbreaking ceremony for the new facility. Already some work has been done there, getting some things ready, but the official groundbreaking happened today and it was a joyous thing. So 90,000 square foot facility. Put it in perspective, they have a 1,200 square foot showroom right now. So going to 90,000 square foot facility, it's going to be incredible. There's nothing like it that's going to be in the nation, and it's going to be right here in Northeast Ohio. So really excited. Check out learms.net to see what's going on, maybe sign up for some training, and we will talk to you soon.
Cool. All right, guys, we'll be back next week. We'll talk to you then. Take care.
All right. Bye.
You've been listening to the From Concealment Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Dan Sams. Be sure to tune in next week for more gun talk. Also, check out the From Concealment website for more shooting-related goodness at FromConcealment.com.